Virginia Giuffre versus Prince Andrew. She lied. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. As a narcissist, Prince Andrew, like any other narcissist, pursues the prime aims. He's an unaware narcissist. He is the upper lesser type A, somatic, the affable arsehole who doesn't operate with a facade, is entirely superficial, not to be relied upon, and as somatic is driven by matters such as money, appearance, and particularly sex. And I've explained in recent videos about how his voracious appetite for sex isn't sex addiction, but is driven by his narcissism. For his narcissism deems that sex is the major highway to enable him to get to the prime aims of control, fuel, character traits, and residual benefits. Accordingly, he has had a lot of sex with a lot of people, has gained such a reputation for doing so. He revels in such a reputation, for there is no facade that it could damage. He essentially is like a dog with 6 dicks that would shag a barber's floor were he given the opportunity to do so. And it is as a consequence of his arrogance and his entitlement, his lack of accountability, and this unquenchable desire by way of his sexual appetite that took him into the orbit of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and then his involvement with Virginia Giuffre. You'll be fully familiar with the allegation that was made that he had sex with her and she was his most vocal accuser. This caused ramifications around the world in respect of what she accused him of, which resulted in many people labelling Prince Andrew as a paedophile, although that wasn't strictly accurate, that he was some kind of sexual pervert, that he was somebody that had sexually assaulted another individual, and this was very much a stain on his character. It also meant that it was a massive threat to his control, both in terms of the allegation itself and its repeated amplification through the press and through the media. It resulted in him having to utilise the asset of another, his mother, to bring about a settlement to make Virginia Giuffre go away. He undertook the ill-thought-out and ill-fated interview with Emily Maitlis and dug himself deeper with regard to his lack of repentance, the absence of remorse, which is fully commensurate with his status as a narcissist. But in some instances, although we know that he has a voracious sexual appetite, and this has been reported on by many people, there are instances where a narcissist may well be accused of wrongdoing and it's not actually accurate. Just because a narcissist is invariably a wrongdoer does not mean that they're always doing wrong. And in some instances, the denial that is issued is a denial based upon the truth. An accusation levelled at a narcissist that they've done something that they have not is invariably based upon evidence that supports the allegation, but when seen through the lens of the narcissist, their narcissist tells them they didn't do it, so they issue the denial. It's a denial based upon a perversion of the evidence by the narcissism. But there are instances where the narcissist is telling the truth, as you would understand that truth to be, and it hasn't been warped by their narcissism. They still issue a denial, for the threat to control must be nullified, but they're actually utilising the truth. As I have explained in my excellent video, The Truth, the Half-Truth and Nowhere Near the Truth, there are occasions that the narcissist will use the truth as you understand it to be to get to the prime aims, although often it's half-truths and an absence of the truth that are utilised. It would appear here that there is now the suggestion that the allegations of Virginia Giuffre were based upon lies. For years, Giuffre claimed she had sex with Prince Andrew at Jeffrey Epstein's Zorro Ranch in New Mexico. In her unpublished memoir, she described the encounter in vivid detail, recounting a long weekend with the Queen's son, filled with horseback riding and candlelit baths. Motivated by financial gain, and buoyed by the momentum of the #MeToo movement, the media reported her claims uncritically. Unchecked coverage brought her and her legal team public attention, credibility, profit. One excerpt from her memoir, The Billionaire's Playboy Club, reads as follows. 2 days later, I was gone again. beckoned to be in Santa Fe. Ghislaine only told me that I was to meet someone there. Not sure of whom that was. It wasn't my place to ask questions. As far as I knew, it could be anyone, and I had no choice but to be compliant to their needs. It was the middle of the day when I arrived at the airport. One of the ranch hands came to pick me up in a big work truck that smelled like dirt and sweat, but I didn't mind. That's what I loved about the countryside. When we arrived at the mansion, my guest was already there waiting for me. I couldn't wipe the look off my face as he turned around from the bookshelf he was standing at. "Hello." That same old cheesy grin greeted me once again. It was His Highness Prince Andrew, and what a sight. He wrapped his arms around my waist and greeted me like an old friend. I hugged him back, rolling my eyes at the same time, already dreading what lay in store over the next couple of days. My job was to entertain him endlessly, whether that meant having to bestow him my body during an erotic massage or simply take him horseback riding. For the next couple of days, he was to be my only concern. The mansion was completely empty, save for a couple of maids who cooked our dinners and a couple of bodyguards we hardly saw. The time dragged by slowly for me as I counted down the hours until I could fly away again. Anywhere but here, I thought. It wasn't easy meeting the sexual desires of these strange men, Prince Andrew being one of them. He loved my feet and even licked in between my toes. There was no passion in the intimacy we shared. To him, I was just another girl. To me, he was just another job. Not the right reasons to be together, but I thought in this world and to these monsters there didn't need to be a reason. To them, it's nothing but a reenactment of their personal fantasies. To me, it was a living nightmare. That is an excerpt from Virginia Giuffre's memoir, which paints a picture of her having to attend to the sexual needs and mores of Prince Andrew. Once again, underpinning his voracious sexual appetite as a consequence of his somatic narcissism. This story was problematic for Prince Andrew, but it came with a substantial catch. It wasn't true. Virginia Giuffre had invented the entire encounter. During her 2016 deposition, Giuffre admitted, under oath, that the event never happened, and that she had never seen Prince Andrew in New Mexico. Her lawyers knew the memoir was filled with inaccuracies that could seriously damage her credibility. So during both the Virginia versus Maxwell case and the lawsuit against Prince Andrew, they moved quickly to get ahead of it by reframing the memoir as fictionalized. An excerpt from her deposition, entitled Ms. Giuffre's Statement Controverting Defendant's Facts, states as follows. In that situation, Miss Giuffre began to draft a fictionalized account of what happened to her. It was against this backdrop of her trauma being unearthed, her steps to seek psychological counselling for it, that she drafted this manuscript. Doing so was an act of empowerment and a way of reframing and taking control over the narrative of her past abuse that haunts her. Accordingly, she claims that she had been abused, but the specific instance of meeting Prince Andrew at a Santa Fe ranch was actually part of a fictionalized account of what actually happened to her, something she claims that she did in order to deal with the trauma that she'd experienced. This retroactive interpretation was successful. Not only did Giuffre's claim that the book was fictional make its way into legal filings and influence the case against Maxwell, but District Judge Kaplan, who presided over Giuffre's lawsuit against Prince Andrew, accepted it. He even rejected Prince Andrew's legal team's request to submit the manuscript as evidence, despite it containing demonstrably false accusations, not only against Prince Andrew, but also against Ghislaine Maxwell, Professor Alan Dershowitz, and others. Unable to prevent this damning document, this meant that Prince Andrew's defence was significantly compromised, and was part of why he was forced into settlement. When the sensational and entirely fabricated story broke, the international media exploded with commentary. The Duke's spokesperson declined to comment, but the new claim was met with shock by his friends. One said, "The Zorro account is a serious inconsistency. Miss Giuffre's lawyers have always claimed 3 alleged encounters, And now this fourth allegation? How so? Why has this never been raised before? And where is the evidence? I suggest you put these questions to her lawyers, not to the Duke. But again, facts were ignored. No one seriously challenged the accuracy of Giuffre's claim, which was made under the threat of perjury, that the memoir had always been intended as fiction. Giuffre was persuaded to write the memoir by British journalist Sharon Churcher, who was later recorded saying she believed Virginia was a blackmailer and false accuser. Once written, unsealed emails between Virginia and Churcher revealed that Churcher connected her with a literary agent, Jared Weisfeld. In screenshots, never shared publicly before, Weisfeld confirms to journalist Jay Beecher, who's been investigating the case for 5 years and is soon publishing a book, that both Virginia and Churcher pitched the memoir to him as 100% fact. This suggests that Giuffre may have committed perjury and that a crucial piece of evidence, one that could have helped exonerate Prince Andrew, Ghislaine Maxwell and Professor Alan Dershowitz, was deliberately kept out of court and hidden from public view. The email, written on the 22nd of April 2024 from Jay Beecher, states, "Thanks, Jared. Really appreciate it. Do you recall if the book was pitched as 100% fact, or were you told it contained elements of fiction? For instance, Churcher is on record as having encouraged Virginia, when writing the manuscript, to make it a Roman eclave." The reply, a further email rather, 2 minutes later, Beecher stated, "I'm just trying to establish more information about Churcher's involvement, particularly if the book was pitched as a factual memoir." Interestingly, in light of this information, it's the case that Giuffre has had a troubled and contradictory history. Back in 1999, before she met Epstein, Giuffre walked out of a drug rehabilitation centre, met 2 young male friends to take drugs and alcohol with, and then later accused them of raping her. Following a month-long investigation, prosecutors declined to pursue the case, owing to the victim's lack of credibility and no substantial likelihood of success at trial. Years later, the defence lawyer for the 2 teens told the press in response to her claims against Prince Andrew that she, Virginia Giuffre, needs to be careful the past didn't come back to haunt her. In her memoir, Giuffre wrote that before meeting Epstein, she'd run away from home, was abusing drugs, and was being trained to become an escort. When initially making her accusations, Giuffre told the press that she had been 15 years old when she first met Jeffrey Epstein. Yet in her unpublished memoir, she wrote, "I spent my sweet 16th birthday on his island in the Caribbean next to St. James's Isle." This was later proven to be impossible, and under oath, she admitted that she was at least 17 when she first met Epstein. In a 2019 interview with Dateline NBC, Giuffre herself admitted to recruiting underage girls for Epstein. In her memoir, Giuffre wrote that while she was over the age of 18, she recruited and sold girls to Epstein for money. Epstein, she said, would provide $200 for the new girl and $400 to me for bringing her. She added, "I was even bringing my friends. I just saw them as easy commission." Crystal Figuera, whose brother dated Virginia Giuffre in the early 2000s, told the Daily News that Virginia would ask her if she knew any slutty girls she could recruit and send to Epstein for financial gain. In her 2021 deposition related to the lawsuit between Giuffre and Alan Dershowitz, Rebecca Boylan, a former close friend, claimed Virginia was lying in her allegations against Dershowitz and others, and that her lawyers were pressuring her to accuse Dershowitz. Rebecca's husband confirmed in his own deposition that they believed Giuffre was lying and that she was proud of working for Epstein and was not actually a victim. Virginia's former boyfriend, Philip Guderian, told the New York Daily News she, Virginia, was like the head bitch. She'd have like 9 or 10 girls she used to bring to him. Guderian recently told a journalist that he saw Virginia while over 18 teaching girls how to perform oral sex. He said she was a willing participant and would go with the girls to get their nails done and shop for clothes after taking them to Epstein. In his 2016 deposition, Figuera confirmed that Virginia Giuffre went to different venues to find and recruit young girls for Epstein. He also stated that she recruited schoolgirls from a local school. One of the schoolgirls that Giuffre is confirmed to have groomed and recruited was Caroline Andreano. She testified that Giuffre groomed her age 14, while Virginia was a legal adult. She said, "Virginia trained her to give sexual massages. At 14 years old, I was big-breasted, and I could definitely pass for 21 when I was made up. I did my own makeup, but Virginia gave me clothes. She gave me these really tight, skimpy shorts with a spaghetti strap top with all my cleavage hanging out. She just said, whatever you do, don't say your age. And I didn't even ask why. I went along with it. Virginia Giuffre, not Ghislaine Maxwell, would pick Carolyn up from school, groom her, ply her with drugs and take her to Epstein, so that Carolyn would be abused, and Virginia would receive cash in return. Hayley Robson, another girl recruited by Virginia, who allegedly became a recruiter herself, is described in police documents as having followed Virginia's pattern, telling underage recruits to lie about their age to deceive Epstein and his associates into believing they were over the age of consent. As a result of Giuffre's grooming, Carolyn Andriano continued to visit Epstein and spiraled into drug addiction. She later told the press she believed that Virginia Giuffre should be held accountable and sent to prison for grooming and recruiting her and other minors. Andriano died under suspicious circumstances in what police ruled a drug overdose. Her mother has publicly stated that she holds Virginia Giuffre accountable for destroying Carolyn's life and triggering her addiction. In her memoir, Virginia wrote that she met numerous celebrities, including Professor Alan Dershowitz. She made no claim of anything illegal occurring or any sexual encounter between them. However, after being influenced by a British journalist to write negatively about him, she later changed her story and accused Dershowitz of having had sex with her multiple times. Dershowitz fought back and sued. A recording conversation between Dershowitz and Virginia's lawyer, David Boies, includes Boies admitting that Virginia's accusations were impossible. Virginia initially tried to delay the lawsuit before finally admitting publicly that she may have been mistaken. Under oath in her 2016 deposition, Giuffre admitted she had lied in her 2014 legal joinder motion and had committed perjury by claiming sexual encounters with foreign presidents. She first repeated the accusation under oath, then later admitted she had never met any such individuals. Rena O, a talented artist in Epstein's orbit, launched a lawsuit against Virginia, claiming Virginia falsely accused her and had in fact sexually assaulted her after luring her into a room with Epstein. This body of evidence arising from various depositions starts to paint a picture that Virginia Giuffre may well have been a lieutenant of Jeffrey Epstein and quite possibly was utilised in order to stitch up Prince Andrew. There's no doubting that Andrew is a boorish, unpleasant, superficial, arrogant and haughty individual. There's plenty of evidence to support that. But in relation to Virginia Giuffre, this might be an instance where she, at the behest of another narcissist, has caused problems for Prince Andrew as the narcissist as a consequence of the lies that she told about him and extracting financial gain from him. Prince Andrew's protestations that he was innocent may well have been accurate, and the settlement was brought about as a consequence of the legal technicalities that I have explained earlier. You, of course, can make your own mind up as to what you believe and where you believe fault might lie with regard to this whole story tale involving Prince Andrew, who clearly exhibited poor judgment at the very least, Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted paedophile who is now dead, and, of course, Virginia Giuffre, some who recognises a victim whose life ended in tragedy, and others are less convinced as to that status, who would see her as a lieutenant acting on behalf of another narcissist. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments section. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.